My next picture, folks, is a very popular bird. It's the European robin. I think it's probably one of my favourites, and I think that goes to a majority of the UK. So we're going to start off by doing the head, and then we're working through. Now the difference is this is going to be a robin in snow, and just along here you'll see there's a line, and that's going to represent snow. Now the idea is that this can also be doubled up as a Christmas card. So let's get going. I'll bring you closer. Now our robin's got lots of grey, so we'll start off with the grey. I'm using light grey to start with. This area is where the rich red, orangey red comes in, and I'm going to put it under that, possibly under that. I might even put ivory under that, I'm not sure yet, but it comes right down to there. Okay, and the other area we need to put in is here. Because we've got snow, we're going to obviously put a greyish background, maybe with a touch of or lemon or ochre in it, I'm not sure yet, representing snow, but I'm hoping to actually put snow on as well. Now, that's fun, folks, isn't it? Now along there, I also need some white on there. I started with grey, but really I need to make just a little bit more of that top of the beak, like that. Great. And a little bit down here as well, because we've got, unusual for me, I've got the bird with its mouth open. I thought that would make a rather nice change. Okay, and a little bit more in here. That's it. Look lovely. Now I did say I was going to put grey. I'm not sure whether I put grey or ivory under there. I think I might put the ivory underneath. We need a cushion for the red because it's quite a strong colour. So let's use ivory. Could have used grey, but I think the ivory will make it a bit richer. And behind there we've got a little light. And while we're there, let's put the light in the eye too. We're going to be doing that quite quickly. I might even do this before I do the beak, because that's a little tricky, that. So I'm going to get a bit more used to it before I do that. On top of that white, I'm going to put ivory. And the obvious reason is I wanted that to be a little lighter. How about that? Okay, let's put just a little more ivory down here. That will come all around the beak now, into the breast. In fact, that's a good cut-off point, that. Don't want too much ivory, not too strong, because it's going to be weaken the red. Although I wanted to do that, and we also put the grey in, might as well bring the grey down as well. Doing good, so far so good. Now right inside the eye, let's do that at the moment before I actually close in on the eye. I don't want to use the light grey, so I'm using 233. The light grey was 230, and this is 33. Now this is a tricky because the eye, because he's got his mouth open, the eye is just slightly squared off there. Now I don't know why that is, but I have to follow what I see on my reference pictures. As usual, I'm using 3 different references for this. It allows me to create my own imagery. That's good. And you see I'm taking quite a lot of care on that because it's only small. Now, I've got it right, I think I have, yep. Okay. Good. What I didn't do is put a little bit of ivory in here, which is also red. We can use the ivory now just to make that a little crisper, and that little bit of white behind. See, at this stage you could make any adjustments, so it's a good idea to play with it a little bit. That looks good, doesn't it? And I think I'm just wondering whether or not the light in the eye should be a little more shaped like that. That might look better. Could always adjust it anyway. No, I think that's better. Gives the impression of round, you know. Okay, happy with that at the moment. Inside here, what do we do in here? I'm putting all the base colours on first. Now ivory first of all, because it's quite light just there. However, when we get back here, it isn't. Now that's quite dark. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to go straight in with 187. It should be. No, it's not. It's 186. Oh dear, got wrong colour, folks. Hold on. Now you see why I was confused. That's the 186, and that's the 187. Like that. Now you can see that they're very close to each other, but can you see that that one's just a little stronger, a little darker, it's a little richer. I may use it again later on, but at the moment I don't want it. Now, the only other thing is I don't want to make that too rich. I'm just wondering whether I actually made a slight mistake here. I think I might put the grey under it. Why is that? Well, whilst I said I wanted it rich, and also another thing I've seen, which is going to interfere, is that pencil mark I put in there. That's a little strong. I don't want to take it out altogether because that gives me a guide. But let's take a little bit of it off. That's it. I can see it now. Let's replace the ivory. You don't want an ugly pencil mark showing through. Yeah, the reason I've used the grey is it just quietens the colours down. I couldn't use the dark grey because that would have been too strong. So I think that would have been... Let's see if I'm right. I'll find out in a minute. Oh yes, just a little quieter. Now during the course of this picture, you'll find me going very quiet. Reason being, it's very detailed and I need to concentrate. Oh no, that was perfect. Sometimes you get the feeling that if you push your luck, no, that's great. It's just right. Okay, so that's all my base colours really there. And now I've got to start thinking about the next level. I think the next level really ought to be making it just a little stronger. So let's use, this is 233. Come in right on the edge of that. Like that. That's great, and a little bit in there like that. And that can come here as well. Now you're going to need some sharp pencils here. That can fade off when we get to there. Great. And let's have a look at the grey here on top. Now, thinking feathers. So, direction of feathers. Top of the head. And that goes over there. Actually, that orangey, what goes around there. Right. And this can butt up to it. Don't want to make it too dark here. And it comes in and around there. Not too complicated at the moment. And I'm going to try to keep it that way if I can for you. Great. Do I want any more? I think we will. Just in here. Creep up on this depth. And we're going to make that darker. The risk here is because the ideal colour here is going to be that one, which is 283. However, I know that 283 is very rich. And if I put it directly on that, I'm going to have a problem. So I think I may have to put the grey on again. And just as the light grey quietened down, 187 when I put it on, this grey is going to quieten down the 283. Very light though, you see. It doesn't really, I mean, it's not really grey, is it? See, the 187 has created just the right base colour. This is 283. Now that is really good. And that comes all the way up here. So under there. It's quite dark there. Now, I think I'm going to use the grey again here, because here we want it to be following on from that, but I don't want it to be too rich. So let's see if I'm right. Don't put all those other colours on, it's just the two main ones. Yep, that's fine. I'm going to sharpen that in a minute. And I've got the colour that I was after. Okay, now I'm going to use a colour shaper for the first time, and this is the grey one. Now if you haven't got this one, well, it doesn't worry, you can use one of the others, but the grey one, first of all, it's got a point on it which gives me accuracy, and second, it's a little firmer than the ivory one. Now this is where we can be very, very clever. See that bit in there? Well, what we want to do, we darken it down, but how do we do that? Well, we bring that colour into it. Now that is a bit clever. See? Now that's almost perfect. That tone, that isn't, got to be darker. So let's get another colour in here. Now I'm using 177. Very rich brown this, but if it goes on top of all of these other colours, it's going to be weakened. And what we want to do here is make it dark there, and then as it comes forward here to here, it eases off a little bit. Now you might look at that and think, have I made that a bit too brown now? I have. But then we've got other colours we're going to be using in a tick. And I want to make that just, I might as well follow that through up here. I'm going to put 181 on this in a little while. That looks great so far. You see how that is now giving the impression shadow in there. This is the bit. Now what we're going to do now is come in with 187 again and use that as a blender. But we don't want to go all the way down here. We want to leave that dark. And I'm going to decide in a minute whether or not I want to use 181 on it. I think we need that to be just a little tiny bit darker in there, so let's bring back the other colours we've had. That's a 283, and then back in with the colour shaper. See, I can always put, and probably will put, just a little bit of ivory back in there. Just a little highlight on that, but that's good. I want it dark against here. You understand? See, now we've got that because we've got the white now, so we've got a strength here, which is important. I don't know whether I want very much more than that. You know, the only thing is now is on the end of this, I've got some of this colour, and that colour actually I can see in here. Now I was going to suggest to you that I blended this. Well, I am, but I can add a little bit of that colour in now. See, almost using this as a palette, paint palette, and just put a little tone in there. Oh, that's great. It's just a touch of colour that would be difficult to put it on. I mean, I could add a little of the richer colours in there, but that's just like a subtlety, which I think is really good. I might even do that with the red later on, just a little touch of colour. Yeah, it's lovely. And it actually brings that almost to where I want it to be, and not too much more colour on there. To remember this, if I wanted to carry on with that and put it all the way through here, what I'd do is I'd make up a palette on a, in fact I might show you that. If I don't though, I better explain it to you, on a spare piece of engrais paper, and then I'll dip it into that and do the same thing. Clever. Now the other thing I was going to show you was I was going to suggest that we make it a little darker, and I think I will, just in here. This is 181. Just on the very edge there, and then grade it and graduate it into the colour that you've already got. That looks great. See, that little bit of extra richness that we got. And along here, I did say I was going to do that as well. That needs to be just a little darker. There. In there. I may have to go back over that in a little while, and it's also under here as well. That's it. Well, that's it for the moment, because I can't do any more to that until I put the red in here. And let's put us a little bit of ivory I said I was going to do, just as a little highlight. Great. That's perfect. Okay. We've also got a background to worry about here as well, so that's going to interfere slightly with that. What I might do is put a little bit of that grey on there. I'm never quite sure at this stage how the background's going to react here, but assuming that it might be light, I'm going to put a bit of grey. Oh, that looks good. Makes it just look that little bit more real. Right, good. Okay, now the eye. We might as well do the eye, because that would be the next colour to use here. Follow. Whoops, did I touch that? I looked away and I touched the quick repair job. Eyes are so important, and you've got to get the right shape. It's best to go around the outside to start with, and this is where it squares off a bit. And remember that little arch I told you about? Well, follow that idea along there, close in on it, and fill it up. And there we have it. Might have to put a bit of black in there as well. But great. Do I want any more? What did I do before we start the red breast? I said this was okay. Well, it is, but it just needs just a little more strength. 181 again. Just to add a little bit of weight. And you can graduate that. Because we've blended it in, it will work really well. Graduate it as we come down. You don't want too much more, I think just there's maybe a touch here. I'm being very light with this. Great. I think we'll leave now, and now we've got the red to do. This is going to be interesting, folks. I'm starting with the 190. Now this is to set the red up. I won't do it all, I'll just do a little bit so you can see. There's a little bit of ivory just there, so we'll see if we can leave that, because that's we could put it in again, but it's probably better not to. The other thing, I'll just come down to here to show you what I've also done. I've put some grey here. This is as a stopping point, so I shall bring the colour down to there. Okay, so that's 190, and then on top of that I'm going to use the orange. Now the orange changes it a little. You don't want to, what you don't want to do with this is a 113. So it's on top of 190. What you don't want to do with this is make it too rich. So we bring that on in, again, keeping in the direction that we see the feathers. Missing that little bit of ivory if we can. Off. Then I'm going to use the red. Now this is 118. Nice strong colour. Again, I'm not pressing hard with any of these. You know, I've mentioned before that red can be devastating if you go too strong with it when you don't need to, like in now, you don't need to. It also doesn't like colours underneath, which we've got the ivory underneath, so you've got to be careful with it. But that gives a nice colour. Now, the only thing it doesn't do, it doesn't give the richness. So now we want a 118. No, we don't. We want 192. This is a nice rich colour, and this will give us the depth. Right, I've finished that off now using all those colours I've mentioned. I'm just going to use the colour shaper. Again, direction of feathers. There you go. And the other colour I'm going to add on just a little bit of 109. This is a really rich, nice rich colour. And we want to just add it in on top of that. Okay, no need to blend that because we're going to be going back over again. That looks great. Just one little thing here that I'm going to show you. Where you have the crossover between the red at the top and the feathers, you need to just work a little bit of magic there to put the two together. And don't need all of them, you just need a, I'm using the 181 on the feather, grey, and 118 on there. And that works really well together. You can then put just a little touch of whatever on there to make it look good. Now we've got to go over again now and make this richer, so I shall just tidy up a little bit. The other thing you can do is you can put a little bit of this colour in here, and I've already put it on there, remember I did it earlier. Okay. I'm just on the tail end of this now, using the 191. And so quite a lot of depth under here. This is where, because it's obviously creating a shadow, we need the depth there. In fact, it would be a good idea, I think, to add a little of the 181 under there. Do this carefully, and we don't want to change the red, but we want to deepen it a bit. You see now how much nicer that looks. Great, okay. Bearing in mind that we've also got the feathers, we've got to give it just a little bit of extra depth. And I think I use the 181 and 192 for this to add. I don't think we need any of the other colours. I'm happy with that. And down here, just maybe a little bit of red ahead of the next colour I'm going to show you, which is 109. There's quite a lot of colour in here. Now the 109 gives us a bit of relief from that red. I've already put a little bit in here. Let's put a bit more. You can see that that makes it quite orangey, but really, really attractive. Just a touch up here. Don't think we need any more of the other colours. I'm happy with that. Down here, again, we've got that question of how we put those two together. I think I'd probably use the grey here. There we are, and then I will do that separately in the tick. Use the colour shaper just to put those together. There you go, that's lovely. Now, a little bit more red on there too. I did that by accident, but that actually works out quite nicely. There's another colour which I haven't used yet, which I'm now going to use, which is the 182. And 182 goes in here. Now this is a little ochre, darkening this area around here. And it can come up and just interfere with the ivory slightly, and it's a good idea to put it back on the other side here too. It's just an additional colour which does look good, and that colour can also be added just very, very gently and sparingly to the grey. There we go. A little bit of light grey in here as well. And I'm really happy with that. That looks great. Come down with the white just to make that just a little richer. And on the top of there, stop there. I think I'm pretty happy with that. 181, just a little touch just in here because it's at its darkest just there, and that adds that little bit of punch that we need for the head. Now that, folks, I think is it.